Hi guys, we're at the Disneyland Resort to update you on all the construction and refurb projects going on around the Disneyland Resort. I hope you join me as we look at some of the new views from Avengers Campus, what's happening at downtown Disney, and the return of an icon. And we're going to start here in the Esplanade with this incredible scene that we're finding at the main entrance gates to both DCA and Disneyland.
Not gonna lie, I was very surprised to see this because you go to the park enough times and you get a kind of a sense of what things are supposed to look like at certain times in the morning. We arrived at 9:30 in the morning, 9:45, so it wasn't rope drop, it wasn't park hopping. It shouldn't be like this at this time in the morning, so something was definitely up. So I thought I would do, a little recon to find out. I believed that this was because they had started using the new gate or the new scanners for the gate check-in, and sure enough, every station that I went to, guests were scanning their phones, scanning their own tickets rather than the cast members. Every single station that I went to or observed, this was the case. Whereas last week, it was just 2 of them. So they're at 100% operations now for this. Although there are still some gates that are left to be updated, they've gone ahead and started the implementation of this process. It doesn't look good. It doesn't look good. It looks like it's slowing things down a little bit, but that is to be expected. That is to be expected. And I don't think this to be a permanent situation. There are going to be things where, people aren't familiar with it. Guests aren't familiar with it. They're not ready. They're not at all ready to, normally when you go through the gate, you kind of know what's going to happen. Guests aren't ready. Cast members have to do a little bit of coaching to get people to figure out what it is that they're supposed to do. But over time, this will correct itself. And as a matter of fact, this queue obviously wasn't the case all day. As time went on, people started to get into the park and they started to work this out. I did do some recon also on that DCA queue, which was the longest looking queue. That queue, which stretched to about the middle of the Esplanade, which is probably the max you're going to see a queue reach. That took 12 minutes for the back of the queue to hit the gate. So I know it looks terrible, and I guess 12 minutes isn't ideal, but it's also, it looks like it's going to take forever, but it is just 12 minutes. Not the worst situation in the world. So I think patience is in order here. And but I am excited to see that this is moving forward and that they are ready to go on this, and we'll see how this affects guest flow into the park long term. And with that, we will enter the park and check in on a few stories real quick. Main Street Opera House is still without its sign. I think they're waiting for the thing to open. They got a new sign coming. Pixie Hollow, nothing. Ain't nothing happening here. I'm just kind of going through the motions, as it were, on this. We'll go to Adventureland. Look at that. Do you see that? This caught my eye immediately. That's something. There's a construction worker working on a form right there. That form is inside the boundary of those construction walls that have been there for more than a year, at least, right? When the bathrooms went a little haywire. Those walls have been up since then and nothing has been happening. But here we go. We've got construction. Something is happening on the other side of those walls at Adventureland, at the Adventureland restrooms. Now, these aren't the restrooms proper. The restrooms have been open this whole time. Something else is happening in front of you. You guys remember those green rocks? The rocks that you could kind of sort of sit on out there in front of the restroom? That's where this space is. But what's interesting is that where he's working is not actually attached to the structure at all. I thought it was at first, but it's not. It's independent in the middle there. So I don't know what that could be. I guess maybe they could be building a new formation, a new rock display that's going to be right there in the middle, that separates the restroom from the walkway.
I am low-key shocked that this is happening right now, that there's construction going on back there, because it just looked stagnant as heck. I took a peek through one of the cracks. I couldn't get the camera through, but I took a peek through one of the cracks, and you can actually see blueprints back there. So they're up to something. They're building something, but it's interesting because it's, as I mentioned, it's not connected to the building itself. It's popping up in the middle of the fenced-off area, so I'm not sure how all that relates together.
Moving forward into Adventureland, hey, Indiana Jones is supposed to be open. When I arrived, it wasn't. Situation normal, I guess, at Indiana Jones. But luckily, after a little bit of time, they did open the attraction up. There was just a minor breakdown, and we took this opportunity to ride. So I got my first look at what's going on inside, or what they fixed, what's been improved, what's different at Indiana Jones. It's not a lot with respect to what the typical 90% of the guests aren't going to notice anything, to be honest. They might notice the boulder, which we'll show you in a minute. But otherwise, most of what they were working on is not guest facing. For example, They did not return the bamboo pole that you pull. That did not come back. The walls doesn't come down.
So we know so far that they did bring back the bamboo pole that you can do to activate the spikes.
Screening room is the same, and I'm hearing that this is going to be permanent. This extended, the full length film that they show in the screening room is going to stay full time. Let's get on our Jeep.
Hello. Oh, my friend. The brakes may be needing a little adjustment.
Unfortunately, and this was to be expected, they did not fix the doors, the opening doors. The doors are still the same. They do not rotate. I was hoping that was total blue sky dreams, though. I will be honest. I didn't actually think that they were going to do that. One thing I did notice is that the sound was a bit louder than I remember, although it's been a few months, obviously, but it was a bit louder than I remember. The next thing we'll notice is when we reach that skeleton room, it's really dark and the blue-green tint as you make your left after you look at Mara over there in the distance. There were two skeletons that used to lurch out at you back in the day as you drove by them. It happens really fast, so you can't see it through the lens. That lurching effect has been restored. It used to be, when it was broken, they would just sit there and not do anything. And now they are launching themselves at you. The two skeletons on your left are launching themselves at you again, which was pretty cool. It took me by surprise. And when I saw that, I'm like, I don't think that was working before because I never really paid attention to it. But it does seem to be the case that those are lurching at you once more. I didn't notice anything on the bridge. The bridge seemed to be working the way I normally see it. Everything there is about as it was. Same thing for the snake. That was about as it was. The one other thing that we were being queued up, we saw permits filed, was for the boulder room. And although when we arrived, it stopped. The ride stopped right there as we arrived at Indiana Jones hanging from the rope in the boulder room. We had to wait for it, which was, that's Indiana Jones. That's how it goes.
I wouldn't have it any other way.
Are you truly riding Indiana Jones if it doesn't stop on you?
Oh no!
But then the ride started up again, and you can see hopefully that the boulder is moving much more. Look at that. Look how much more convincing that is than it used to be. It's rotating, it's moving. It looks like it's coming at you in a way that hasn't worked in quite some time. So I was very pleased to see that boulder working. Who knows how long that's going to last? These are finicky technologies. They're very, very fickle, and they can break down again and again and again over time, as we've seen in many other attractions. Even here in Indiana Jones, it's hard to keep this thing working 100% on a regular basis. So we'll stay tuned for that. But there you go. Indiana Jones is back and functioning better than it did before. Right next door, Pirates of the Caribbean. Still on lightning lane. That's still the case. I expect that we won't have our answer on this for another couple of weeks. But if it is still there in a couple of weeks, then we'll know that they're keeping it. Restrooms in New Orleans Square are still under scrim and scaffold, paint and polish there. There's the Jambalaya Jazz Band. I always enjoy watching these cool cats walk down the steps, get ready to do a set. No update from the train station, the demo of that building back there. It's been demoed for a while, but I don't think there's going to do any sort of vertical construction here for a while. And then there's the Jambalaya Jazz Band doing their set. Jump over to Critter Country. Raised berets. We've reported that the grass is dying, has died. There's kind of a new development here, though. If you go to the back side, right side looks as we left it last week. But the left side, I don't know if they've cut it or something, but now even the thick, heavy turf is gone. Now I don't know if that's been cut or not. I'm not really a professional horticulturalist to know what happened here, but we reached another new stage of the grass there. Golden Horseshoe, same as we left it last week. Scrim and scaffold still up. Can't really tell what's going on behind the thing. Behind the scrim, we don't really know what they're doing other than I think they're changing the color palette. They're inverting the colors. Golden Horseshoe is still open during regular business hours. At 11 a.m. it opens up. And lots of seating in here. Lots of seating. And there's still no show on the stage here at the Golden Horseshoe, which I hope they remedy that situation for the 70th perhaps. Big Thunder. Weehaw. Water's looking even better than ever. It looks great. This is back to normal. I love it. Pinocchio's Daring Journey, same as we left it before again. Scrim and Scaffold still up. They're painting the exteriors there is my guess, or maybe they're doing some other sort of trim work. You can see that the scaffold is extended out into the tree itself, but unable to tell exactly what's happening in there. I can't see, hear, or smell anything. Small World. Great news. Talk about returns of an icon, i.e. Indiana Jones. How about this icon is back? The clock face is back at Small World. Huzzah. And the walls are still arranged as we've left them last week as well. There's still the same work is happening there. We'll look over the walls or over the scrim from the backside on the Disneyland Railroad. Everything looks to be just as we left it last week. I haven't seen anybody working on anything for a while now. There are cast members out there, but there's no active work being done that I can tell. We're just going to wait. When you see water down there, that's when we'll know we're ready. We're looking for a May start. Fantasyland Theater, the paint work, it continues here. They're refreshing the stage, getting ready for the 70th anniversary. And my understanding is that they're going to be doing the Pixar Fest show, the same show they did for Pixar Fest, they're going to be doing for the 70th, or something similar at least. And that takes us to Downtown Disney, ESPN Zone. And I'm just seeing pretty much the same as we left it again last week. The soffits have been installed, the little, extension over there. My guess is lighting instruments. Earl of Sandwich in a similar state of construction as we left it last week as well. There was a little bit of active work, but not nearly as active as we saw last week. They're still working on the framing for this structure, and I would expect to see the exterior start to be applied in the next couple of weeks. We'll take a look at Tortilla Joe's next. This from a distance, you can see they've blown out. In fact, they have blown out the back of that wall that faces the monorail, and it is just a shell of what it was. Literally. They're not tearing the building down. The steel is staying up. As I reported last week, basically wherever you see the fire insulation on the steel, that's the steel that's going to stay. If you see bare steel with no fire insulation, it's likely they're going to be removing that steel or part of it at least. And my guess would be that it's the top layer, and then, well, we'll see in a minute. As expected from last week, they did in fact take down, well, they've taken down partially at least, the dome that was up there. The actual domed curved structure of that has been removed.
My guess is that the crane is going to grab on, kind of like what we saw in the last episode where they were holding on to the platform that they were cutting away. My guess is the crane is going to help support the steel that they're cutting. They're going to cut the steel in sections, but rather than let it fall, the crane is going to be, is going to have it held, and then they're going to carry that piece of steel out, like I said, rather than having it fall down onto the ground.
And more steel has been removed here as well. I'm noticing that though that the dome structure does not have fire insulation. It could be that they did that while they were working on it, and then they'll put more fire insulation back on, because I do think that structure is staying. We'll continue a tour around the other side of the building just to see how things look today. You can see they've also taken down some of the facade, the actual front facade. Here's the guy working on the rear part. We saw there was a crane. I don't know if we noticed that before. I think we did. The crane is holding steel in place because I think they're going to be taking down this backside as well. That's the next part. So they're going to take down the top layer, maybe a third of the top layer of the building, and then the back quarter or so is my guess. We'll go to Grand California next, where things are again about as we left them last week. It was a short time between last week's update and this week, so a lot of our updates are going to be brief. But they have moved the scrim and scaffold down further down on those DVC units. The entrance from the Grand California to DCA obviously is still closed. From this angle, you can see the walls are up, and then from the backside, now we're in DCA proper. Walls are still up there. Let's take a look around the corner, see if we can find anything. We're going to see some more scrim fencing along that little path that takes you into the Grand Californian. So we can't see what we do know that they redid the surface there, the walking surface on that part. But there's a guy there. It looks like, okay, so they're installing a new awning, a new covering that you pass under. That's right where the scanners are. So they're installing a new covering for the scanner area there, it looks like. A new awning. We'll go to Carthay Circle next, where they've taken the scrim and scaffold down completely from the front facing the facade of the building, and it looks incredibly clean. I was noticing, like, my gosh, there's not a single blemish on that building. No discoloring, no rain or whatever, water runoff markings and things of that nature. It's a completely pristine facade. Looks great. And then next door, Disney Junior, you can see they've started to take down some of the Facade elements, I'm going to guess we're going to get probably a new paint or color scheme there as well. That's my guess. But the walls are still up. The Scrim and Scaffold's still up at Disney Junior, waiting for the new show for Mickey's Clubhouse. We reported, I think in our State of DCA report, which I think is still coming, or I'm not sure if it's out yet, they were running just one elevator at the time, but it looks like we found Charlie and Alpha working on this day. Alpha and Charlie. But it's still just two. That seems to be the base mode now. It's Mission Breakout is running at best 2 elevators, which it affects wait times tremendously. But 2 is better than 1. 1 is a disaster. All right, 1 is terrible. Just take a few minutes, guys, when you get to the park, when you go to Mission Breakout, just take a few minutes and see if there's 1, 2, or 3 elevators running. If there's 3, it's a go. 2, it nets you something like a 45-minute wait time. And with that, let's go to our new view. This is very exciting. I took a minute to find a new view from Harbor Boulevard and of the Avengers Campus construction. So this is basically from Harbor Boulevard, and we're just looking at the backside. This is what we see when we're on the Pixar Pal Around. This is the space that we can't see. It's the space that's behind the Luigi's admin building. This is where Mount Downey and Mount Downey Jr. should or close to be seen. And we are in 100% dirt mode here. All of the concrete has been ripped up. There's nothing left. And it's all just pure dirt. And it's actually, you can see that it's sort of moving dirt around in order to create space for what's going to wind up being for water and for electrical conduit and things of that nature. The only problem here is that this view is not quite high enough. So, I mean, we're going to keep coming back here because when it goes vertical, this is going to be a great place to see the vertical construction. But it's not quite high enough to see what's happening on the dirt. We're only, I think, on the 5th floor. Can't get any higher than that. We'll keep our eyes open for other possibilities. But this is exciting because we've got a place, possibly, where we're going to be able to get a pretty good look at the vertical construction when it starts. I'm guessing still it's probably another 4 or 5 months away is my guess. Okay, guys, if you'll allow me, let me take a quick break to remind you guys of our preferred travel partners, GetAwayToday. They are fans of our show, and we are fans of them. If you are planning a trip to the Disneyland Resort or to any Disney theme park or even to Universal or Alani or anything of that nature, make your travel arrangements through GetAwayToday. We love them. They are fantastic. They are the best in the business at making sure that you get everything you need out of a vacation at a Disneyland Resort or at the Disneyland Resort or Walt Disney World or anywhere you like. Knowledgeable, friendly, kind, and you'll probably get a good deal there. Use the link in our description for GetAwayToday. Let them know we sent you, and I hope you guys enjoy your trip. With that, we will get a little higher. We'll get on the Pixar Pal Run just to see what we're able to see. Let's see, the view, as I mentioned, that we just saw is what's behind the salmon color building. It's to the right. Where our view was is to the right of frame, looking in the opposite direction towards the Mission Breakout building. But this is our view now, and we can see to the left of the Luigi's admin building that they are digging. Although I don't see the excavator now in this scene, although it was there last week. No excavator in sight. I do want to point out where I'm looking now. See those trees? The trees between the orange cozy cones and the Avengers Campus, the headquarters right there. That is subject to closure. It is my understanding that they're going to close that path that goes between Cars Land and Avengers Campus, the path that connects those two. I'll talk about that more in just a second, but let's see if we can't finish our view from the Pixar Pal Around. We can't really see, I don't see Mount Downey at all, but there are some mountainous areas there to the left of the salmon colored building there. Yeah, so let's get on the ground. We're walking from Avengers Campus into Cars Land via this access path right here. On the other side is Cars Land. Now we're on the Cars Land side and that path. There you go. And there's Luigi's on the right. There's that wall that I've always been trying to look through, but I won't with the camera. And then what they're going to close all this path down, and they're going to do it, as I understand it, in order to build a new restroom right here in this space, right about where Red would sometimes meet in this space, or other vehicles. They would sometimes meet here. I mean, Red doesn't, I guess he does still meet here, even with his new community garden. This is this space where we're in right now, they're going to build a new bathroom, presumably because they're getting prepared for people losing their lunch on the 2 new attractions they're building at Avengers Campus. So look for this space to be the home of a new restroom. But it's food for thought.
Now, one thing I would note about this is that it's possible that maybe that is the reason why they closed the Doctor Strange show. That was a long time ago. It's been quite a while since they've closed it. That seems like an awful early point to be doing that. But perhaps they just felt like might as well do it now rather than later. I don't know. Or just have an excuse or an opportunity to save a few bucks. We'll see if that has any impact on the Doctor Strange show, or if that, if that Doctor Strange show returns when they're finished with construction. We'll have to wait 4 or 5 years for that.
And that is our construction update for this week. Let's wrap up with what's happening around the park, all the current ongoing closures, and what's coming up. Starting with great moments with Mr. Lincoln and the Main Street Opera House. Still closed, obviously, and our expectation is that it'll be back open in July. It's a Small World has been closed since January, is now scheduled to reopen on May 9th. Yes, closed until May 8th, opening May 9th. Optimistically thinking, we should have a meet and greet back at Pixie Hollow on June 1st. No change in that from last week. This is something that is changing every week, it seems like. Right now, we are still set for a reopening at Pixie Hollow for June 1st. The Tiki Room is closing on April 28th. No known date for that to return. Carnation Cafe, this is something we didn't get into last week, but it is on the calendar. Carnation Cafe is going to close on April 28th and will remain closed until May 9th. So that's going to be down for about 2 weeks, reopening on May 10th. Matterhorn Bobsleds closing on May 5th. No known date yet for its return. Chippendale's Gadget Coaster closing on May 19th. Again, no known date yet for its return. Over at DCA, Sorcerer's Workshop and the Anna and Elsa meet and greet are closing on April 28th, both scheduled to return on May 16th. And Soarin' Around the World, closing on April 28th, reopening on May 1st, or May 2nd, I should say. I didn't get to this in the earlier report. I should mention this now. Walt Disney World, Epcot, they're Soarin' Around the World. They fixed the Eiffel Tower. The Eiffel Tower has been fixed. It is no longer, if you're sitting to the left or right, does it lean left or lean right? It is now perfectly straight for the whole show. There is a chance that that's what they were doing here. I thought this was for the changeover from California to around the world, but obviously that's not the case because they've already put that, we're already back to Soarin' Around the World. There's a chance that that's what this is, but I don't think it is, but I think we are getting the fixed scene for the Eiffel Tower some point in the near future. We'll keep our eyes open for that. And that is it for our construction update this week, guys. I do hope you enjoyed. Be sure to stay tuned every Monday for these reports coming from Fresh Baked. Otherwise, thanks again for watching, everybody. We love you. Be safe out there. Be kind to one another. And Fresh Baked